he's got all the things. He's got all the
Yep.
tools. Seems to have the right mindset. He's got enough distance, age-wise, from the big two right now. So, do we consider his, from all that we've, heaped onto him in the last 12 months, have we seen enough? We can do whatever we want to do, Torrey. It's our podcast. Whatever I want to do. It's fine. It's fine.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's
How you doing?
I'm great. It's a little post Thanksgiving, getting back into the swing of things, but swing of things, pun intended. But we are here. I think last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, we did the WTA year in review, and now we're going to kind of jump over, tackle the men's tour, and we're not going to do it exactly the same, right? Because that would be uncivilized if we did it the exact same way. And they're very different tours in very different places right now, where we celebrate the depth of the top end of the women's game right now. It's a little bit different story on the men's side, so we need to approach it a little bit differently.
I agree with that. It's a Dyson vacuum right now is what it is, and or whatever the high end vacuum you're using down there in downtown ATL. I will say, on a quick caveat, was thoroughly entertained by the Davis Cup final.
Well, look at
that match with my main man Flavio Caboli and Jaime Minar was. I sat in your house, Alvin, months ago. I want to say Minar was playing João Fonseca, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves, and it was Wemby, and I remember us going back and forth. If not that match, we watched Jaime play somebody else, and it was a decent match. And I remember saying to myself, this Munar is on a given day top 10. On a given day, he's 60. But can he be that version of himself 6 days out of 7? Now, that's the difference with him being inside the top 10. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to come through in that match, but it was some great tennis. I've never seen him play as well for that long, and I've never seen Caboli play that well for that long, being down. He's down by a lot. Long story. I just wanted to give that shout out. I don't think we give tennis its props without the big two, the new two that are in there. And we didn't have Sinner, nor did you have Lorenzo, and as well as obviously on the Spanish side, Carlos being on the out as well. So I was very, very happy to see at least Davis Cup was literally held up by, I don't want to say it like this, but by the second tier. You know what I mean? I mean, those guys clearly you got to give them their props. But I was so impressed, Alvin, at the quality of the tennis. It wasn't just like we're watching Best of the Rest. No. Those guys put on a show, man. That was an absolutely entertaining final, and was very, very impressed to see it minus the new two. I think that's all I was trying to say.
I think that speaks to the testament of one, Jaime Minar, let's put him to the side for a second, because he gets there. Like his top end is, like you said, it could be 10 to 15. I think he might have even peaked, gotten around 15 to 20 at one point before he kind of went into the woods a little bit, and now he's had a full season back, and he's playing good tennis. Like, I saw him in Dallas, and every time he plays against Ben Shelton, he seems to own Ben Shelton. It's he's crafty, he absorbs pace well. He gets a little, he can lose his head a little bit at times, but he is a solid professional tennis player. And I think that's the other part of my taking off what you just said there about Davis Cup. Like, when you take out the top two, go to any 250 in the world, you're still dealing with the best tennis players in the world. Like, they are, I imagine the people who listen to this podcast are very much so aware of this, but the guys who are ranked 600 in the world are also really, really good tennis players. Yeah. So if it's Munar, if it's Matteo Berrettini, former Wimbledon finalist, if it's Zizou Bergs, who played a tough one in the semifinals of the Davis Cup, Flavio Caboli, these guys are so good. So like, let's not just because we don't mention them all the time on
Right.
in this space and give them
Right.
let's give them let's give the rest of the tour
100%.
their just respect, because these guys can ball. They're all good.
And I think that's the problem with us fans as well, and media in particular. We're so hyper focused on the top end that you lose that depth and that appreciation for, oh, by the way, number 2 and 3, number 3 and 4 aren't too bad. And by the way, number 10 is don't sleep. Number 25 is, hey, all day can play at the level of top 10 in the world. And I think that was all I was saying. And I was actually pleasantly surprised and reminded of that watching that match. And it was good that the other guys weren't there, because you weren't comparing them head to head like we tend to do in their presence.
Yeah, I think that's a really good segue, like into how we're gonna kind of tackle today's as we look back on the year and what our thoughts are. I think the only real tricky part is when are we going to talk about those two guys?
I think we've talked about them enough to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, let's cover it here so we can get it out of the way. Those two being Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner, or Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, if you are of the Italian flavor there, whatever. 1 and 2 in the world, separated by about 700 points. One played 19 tournaments, one played 18 tournaments. Both won 2 Grand Slams. Same thing, 2 years in a row. Like, what else we need to talk about right now? Nothing.
Enough. Say less. You know what I mean? Say less. They have proved beyond a shadow of a doubt they are the new two. It's their world. We're just living in it. And I look forward to a great 2026 to see who wants to pick up the gauntlet they've thrown down. So, you know what I mean? They've blessed us with some great tennis, and in the wake of the former big three, which didn't always hit at the same time, right?
Right.
The big three, and that's the beauty of the big three. They were all there at the same time, but they didn't all hit at the same time. Right. So, but you appreciated their dominance and their obviously their tenure, besides the obvious, quality of tennis. But these two have seemingly kind of picked up in more of the Borg McEnroe, fashion, where they've kind of come on the scene, and to be honest, have gotten better because of each other, right? And so that's, to me, what I see when I see this. I just hope that it keeps going, and unlike Borg and Mac, hope they don't stop after 5 or 6, and then go the way, because that'd be a shame for the tennis fans and all of us. So, who do you want to talk about first?
Well, let me ask you this one thing before we get off of the Carlos and Jannik of it all. Next year, what do you think is more likely? One of them winning 3 slams, the two of them splitting the 4 slams, like 2-2, or somebody else winning a Grand Slam not named Sinner or Alcaraz?
Tough question. Going with my gut on this one. I'm calling another 2-2.
Another 2-2.
All things aside, injury and whatever, another suspension or what have you, and that sort of thing. All that aside, I see it being another 2-2. You know what I noticed? How innately competitive they are with each other, that they don't want the other one getting too far ahead.
I love it.
And when you have that, Carlos could not say enough good things about Jannik in that end of year, tournament at Torrey.
Yep.
But in the same breath was like,
watch your ass.
Exactly. I'll be ready January. You know what I mean? And he didn't just say it then. He probably also said it after Wimbledon. He probably came back out of that. He was determined, Alvin, all U.S. Open. You could see every match he was looking to take that title. I think he probably got away with one in French, although it was a great match. Wemby was good, but it wasn't great. And I think he threw down the gauntlet at the U.S. Open. He absolutely was playing on another level. I mean, it's a complete another level during that whole tournament. And I remember watching that match. It was personal to him. So go back to answer your question. that will continue. You don't just shut that off. Now, could I see somebody else coming in and maybe playing? Spoiler, it's always possible, just not likely. Not at the route they're going, and not at the slams. Do I see somebody beating them somewhere else? Sure. Do I see them at the slams? No. These guys have a date with history, and they've got a Willy Wonka ticket, with history that they're not turning in that golden wrapper for anything.
All right, that's fair.
In my humble opinion,
I did see the ebb and flow in that, in addition to the Grand Slam aspect, not even the Grand Slam aspect, but just kind of their last 4 or 5 meetings. Like obviously the French Open final was, we'll put that in the pantheon. That was what it was. Wimbledon final, it wasn't a great match, but I think that a lot of that had to do with Jannik. Jannik played amazing. He served amazing. He was on Carlos. Like, I mean, it took a magic trick for Carlos to win that first set, and then Jannik just like shut the door. It was a fantastic display by Jannik in the rest of that match. And then Carlos, with that, keep that same energy, brought it into the U.S. Open. Like, I need to get better. I need to show that I can lock it down as well. Very similar dominant performance from him. And then, one of our listeners commented, and I forget their name, so forgive me. She's I think it was a she, is Italian, and was kind of given the insight of like, you got to take into consideration like Jannik playing that final. They weren't playing for necessarily anything from a year-end standpoint in Turin, but for him, he had just announced he's not playing Davis Cup, right? He's in Italy. The fans are like, it's a home match. Like it actually meant everything to him. Like he needed to get that W. So I think I might have said that.
On Italian soil.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly. Sure. So like, I mean, there are stakes, right? There are stakes. Yeah. Every match counts. Every match is a little bit different, but we as tennis fans we're the benefactors here. We get to see these guys play tennis moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, actually, let's start with the kind of the younger guys on the tour, right? So I've kind of broken this up into age brackets here. We got our young guns who are under 21. We got our guys who are unfortunately born at the wrong time, ages 22 to 24. We got a group entering their prime. It's just a conversation to be had about what prime actually means these days. And then we've got the guys who are like, okay, this is it. You are in your prime. Like, where are we going? So kind of starting with the young guns. Got a handful of players here, and I think some of them, like let's start with Arthur Fils, because Arthur Fils is, he's on the older end here of the young guns. He has shown himself to be top 10 talent. He has played top 10 tennis when healthy. Now he got hurt Roland Garros after his knockdown drag out match with Jaime Munar. You know what, Mr. Munar, take a bow. You're all over the pod today, all over the pod. But I say a little bit of an incomplete when we're looking at his year. But if you look at the first 6 months of this year and 2024 as well, I think you start to see the way this young man is trending. And I believe we've both kind of earmarked him as like as one of the small group of players who are younger than Carlos and Jannik that will look to challenge those two. Still feel that way.
100%. I also feel, and I want to say this at the outset before you go any further with the rest of the players, because they all have this ability. They also have the most to continue to develop and learn and add to the game. The players on the other side of the spectrum are pretty, you don't want to say finished. That carries with it such a
they're complete.
Ominous tone, but they're complete. That's a good word.
Complete players.
Yao can still develop a new side of his game, even though he's quote unquote made it in the tour player now. Learner Tien, I know you're going to talk about Mensik and obviously Alex Michelsen. They're all great players already, but they can still add a few wrinkles. If Lerner gets a serve, Alvin, it could be a whole different dimension. If Arthur gets healthy and just stays healthy and plays the full year, he was already on the right track. We haven't seen Mensik a whole lot due to some injuries and probably getting dinged up, and probably that schedule. Once you kind of break through, your schedule changes. You're in the events a lot longer, right? You're starting to really kind of feel the throes of the tour. this, which has happened to guys that were already top 10, top 20. So, of course, a guy who's breaking in top 20, now you got to play the same schedule. There's so many things. If some of these guys can still get better. So that's the one piece that I feel why I feel that they are so dangerous is that, and they got nothing but heart and I'm going to try this, where I feel like some of the tried and true and your whole this is it category, they're still hoping that they're good enough is good enough. And they're probably not going to do anything too crazy or too drastically different than what they've done before. If history serves as any indication of what we've already seen.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. I'm definitely with you there. And that's kind of the benefit of being it's the benefit of being young, right?
A young guy.
It is what it is. I kind of want to start with Learner Tien, right?
Yep.
So Lerner is 19 right now.
God,
obviously this is his first it's his first full year on tour. And I think he might be turning 20 relatively soon, actually. But first full year on tour, and he's gone from sort of the year at 122 into the year at 28, back to title at the end of the year as well. Like it's interesting in that there aren't a lot of guys at his stature, size-wise, who are actually doing it on the tour at this level. I don't know. I'm not gonna say that I struggle with seeing him as a top 30 player because, like you said, if he gets a serve, watch out. But
all bets are off.
And this is like kind of like back to our conversation, and you made this point months ago about like your experience with Novak when he was in juniors. I mean, he couldn't serve and he couldn't volley, right?
Yep.
And then you
the forehand was
right, and then you fast forward through his career, and if you're fortunate enough or if you're diligent enough to be able to play a long career, you can incrementally get better. Like if you're an NBA player and you have a 15-year career, that's a pretty long career. But if you're a 15-year career and you start off as a 28% 3-point shooter, if you get half a percent better every year, right? Now we're touching close to 40 by the end of this thing. Like we can get better. We can get better, and I think Lerner will get better.
I agree.
He has no choice. I don't know if having Michael Chang as his coach is going to be much.
He won't be giving him any huge serve tip, perhaps. But at the same time, it certainly bodes well for him being in that camp. And I feel like all the right tennis minds around him are all going to be saying the same thing, right? They're going to be making sure they work on those weaknesses and making sure he gets that up. But look at what he's done already. He's got the confidence that, hey, if I'm this good without a serve, imagine with the serve. And that's all. Again, and there's two of the other things he could probably get better at in general. But, dude, has he not already shown us? That's some heavy lifting, Alvin. To move almost 100 spots in a year, and the other guys aren't getting worse. That speaks for itself. To your point, can he get much higher? Well, we'll see. Probably not without a serve and a few other pieces to his game. But this kid's done a lot already, and I'm excited to see what he brings in next year.
Yeah, I think that's the big one, right? And with him, one of the most attractive parts about his game is that it's very dissimilar from everyone else's game. He reminds me of, he's a bit of a throwback in that he's going to play from the baseline, like behind the baseline, but not in a very aggressive manner. I was, obviously watched him play on TV a good bit. I've seen him in person on 2 different occasions. Junior Australian Open in 2023. I was on site for week 2 and the juniors were playing, so I went out and watched him, and I was like, handsy, crafty, like as a lefty would be, but lacking firepower. And then you fast forward all the way to Australian Open this year. He's playing in the senior event, and he's right there with taking Medi out in the second round, which I guess was this formal introduction to the general population of the tennis fans, which a lot of us have seen it before that. But yeah, the ability to play in spaces and kind of like maneuver his way through points without a ton of power, I think is something that a lot of players would be they would be better off if they could do it. And so now he just has to add some of these things, that's pretty cool.
He reminds me of a former top 5 player that also didn't have a ton of firepower, Russian player. I might add. There's my one hint.
Mm.
Never very not lefty, but was righty. But
Can I
was
guess?
it's pretty simple. He absorbed pace, was absolute death to play. I mean, never gave anything, held baseline, used your pace against you, was pretty good off both wings, but never really overpowered you. You know what I mean? And that's what his game reminds me of. And with just a little bit of a touch of Marcelo Rios in there, but Marcelo was so heavy, but he was handsy. And
Right.
and we're obviously, Davydenko was a lot more straight through the ball and hit the ball, obviously a lot cleaner, a lot bigger. But he reminds me a lot more of Davydenko than he does of any other player that I've seen in a while.
Yep. Yep.
And that style was also, as it was then, was difficult to match it because his ball wasn't pure flat big. It wasn't heavy and spinny. It was just clean. And because his pace wasn't there, I said this about Donald Young. Donald Young was so good because people kept talking about, his ball needs to be a little bigger. I'm like, I don't know about that. He's pretty darn fast. So my whole foot speed and ball speed equation.
Yeah.
It made Donald that much faster because he could run down the ball at the same speed, roughly, theoretically, that he was hitting at. And so had he hit the ball bigger, you talked about Chang earlier. Chang got a little worse when he got bigger and stronger, and he was starting the ball bigger. Chang was just fine at the pace he had. All the way to the French final. He was doing great. When he got bigger, he almost out-hit himself a little bit. Some of his genius wasn't as good because his ball was now a tad bit better. So I don't know. I just feel that sometimes you don't mess up the sauce too much. You know what I mean? When you're looking at can he add a serve? For sure. Can he add some other finishing touches, getting that? He already comes that decent. He has good hands, but can he add and not take away? Right? Can it be a net positive? Right, and not just he's doing this better, but now he's losing the long rally. I mean, that to me,
right,
take away something from his game.
Okay, fair. Want to keep bouncing around here. João Fonseca.
Yep.
Okay. Very, very similar trajectory actually to Learner Tien, right? Started the year at 145, ended the year at 24, was able to pick up a title there towards the back end of the year in the fall. And I was just thinking about him this morning because I was in the gym and Tennis Channel was replaying his match against Andrei Rublev from the Australian Open. That was a great match. One of those welcome to the party type of announce yourself kind of matches. Two tight sets, with tiebreakers. But I think everyone points to him, and I guess me included, as this is the guy. He's got all the things. He's got all the tools. Seems to have the right mindset. He's got enough distance, from age wise, from the big two right now. So, do we consider from all that we've, heaped onto him in the last 12 months? Have we seen enough?
Enough for what?
I feel like ending the year at 24, if you start the year where he was, and then you go, okay, where should he be Australian Open 2026? And in my head, it's let's not get ahead of ourselves here, but he should be seated at a Grand Slam, right? So he will be. He has that kind of talent. Can he get himself into the top 35 by the end of the year?
Yeah.
Which he's done, but he hasn't really blown the doors off at a Grand Slam quite yet.
Yeah. Do I think we've seen enough? Yes. Is the potential there? 1,000%. I take a different track with João, and I take the same track with a lot of players that are like him. I see him being a little more on the long-term track than on the near-term track. And the reason being is he takes so many more chances. He's going to tag the ball, period, end of story. He's going to learn nuance. He's going to learn feel. He's going to learn when not to have to blow through everybody. That's going to take a little bit of time. He's going to learn how to transition better. He's going to have to. But up until this point, he hadn't had to, right? So he's going to continue to go through. Two players I'm going to bring you back to, Alvin. One is Boris Becker, who was Boom Boom was his nickname of all things. So, and it's save for the 2 titles he won on the grass at a young age, he really didn't do much on the tour as far as Grand Slams are concerned until about 4 or 5 years later, until his game got truly good and developed. I see Yao being a little closer to that track.
Okay.
Another player that I thought that did well and started getting a lot better as he got a little older, while he was still on the younger side, is Delpo. I think Delpo, again, also crushed the ball, hit the ball absolutely massive. And it took Delpo, mind you, Delpo had some injuries and some other things, but I felt like Delpo, you got a player that tags the ball as big as he does. And you look at all the big hitters in times past, they just crush. Those guys tend to be high risk, high reward, but occasionally, right? So what I hope we don't do, what I don't do, is heap so many expectations on this young player that we, almost we talk him into having get good overnight. He's going to continue to bake and just cook and get better and get better. I don't think do I see him beating one of the top 4 or 5 this year? I do. Do I see him winning a slam this year? No, not even close. Not yet. And that's not to say that he can't. It's just I don't think his game is that complete yet. And I feel like in the next 2 to 3 years, he'll be there. He'll have the rest of it all worked out without sacrificing what he's doing. I could see Lerner knocking off somebody good on their bad day more so than Yao. Yao just has that kind of ball, man. He's just a banger, man. He tags the ball. And I hope he doesn't run into the Rublev cliff, that plateau. Because I think that's what happened to Andre. He got there hitting the ball so big, I felt like Medi reached a little bit higher level of success, even though they're both friends and rivals from a long time back, because Rublev continued to double down on what he did best, which is pace. And I'm hoping that he doesn't do that. And if anything, I'm hoping they can learn from his elder statesman that hey, while you can, develop the other side, develop a good B game. And up to this point, we haven't had to see it because that's what he does well. But that's why I'm going to not place any expectations on him too much, at least not right now. But I look forward to seeing his work in progress.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The Rublev comparison is an interesting one. Actually, the Delpo comparison is a really interesting one. It's almost like big men in basketball, right? It takes them a little bit longer to put the whole thing together.
Yep.
I think could we, if we look at this same conversation a year from now,
right?
If we've seen Yao kind of make second week of 2 different Grand Slams, because when we start talking about success in the Grand Slams, right, which is probably the ultimate marker of greatness that we've agreed upon here, it's not just the ability, not just the quality of tennis that you're able to produce. It's like you got to do it 3 out of 5, and you got to do it for 2 weeks, right? So there's when you're
against ever better level of competition round to round,
right? And there's also a fitness aspect to this too, right? Like he hasn't had a full season playing best out of 5s, like training to play best out of 5 set matches. He qualified into the Australian Open where he was able to take out Rublev, right, and then made a decent run to. I guess he lost to Sonego in the very next round, right? So. That's kind of the next evolution for him. Like, do we get ourselves ready to make deep runs in Grand Slams consistently?
And if he made one deep run into a slam this year and was respectable 3rd round, at the other 2 of the 3, that would be a huge year for him and huge progression. You see what I'm saying? I felt like even when Ben broke out a few years ago and had that phenomenal run. Quarters, right? He lost to Novak in the quarters 2 years ago, was it?
Semis.
Yes.
Semis. Yeah.
And we talked about this. It almost hurt his next year. You know what I mean? It hurt his next year because he almost reached a little farther than he thought. Probably before his game was really ready to do. And I feel like in the ensuing 2 years, he, much to his credit, we talked about on this podcast, he's got the other parts. He's got the slice down. He's returning better. He's starting to play himself into matches more. He's not all go. He has the ability to make some balls. His backend's got cleaned up. His forehand isn't always a grip and rip. He's working the point like he should, and he's still hitting that laser beam, still hitting that still hitting that photon bomb. Like always. But I feel like it was he can't look at that well, I had semis, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Now, I should be. No, just keep getting better. Take that as it was. And now, Ben's legit, legit knocking the door top 5, if not already, in the world. And hey, and I think he's the better for it. You see what I'm saying? Keep getting there steady. Ain't not that you wouldn't take a semi if somebody handed it to you. You know what I mean? You're not going to turn it down. I just feel like from the young guns, I'm looking for continued progress in their game, not just in the rankings and the results. Are they getting better? Can I look at them and say, he's 2 years better inside of a year? That's the ultimate compliment I can give a young player. He's 18 months better in this last 9 months. You don't get that, and that comes from some wins, some training, a lot of belief. But my point being, if I could keep saying that the next year and then the next year, then these these guys they're headed for the top 3 on the podium, because that's where they're just not stopping the getting better portion of their game. So that's
right.
To me, I'm more big on, or is that happening more than the rankings and the rounds that they win in slams?
Sure. And I think, I'll just say that the performance in the Grand Slams, they operate as very nice checkpoints, right?
They're certainly metrics. Don't get me wrong.
And
you're valid. Your point. They definitely are the metric to be measured. I'm just saying, for them and only for them, I'm saying I hope that they keep getting better as much as I hope to see them get deep into the slams, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. So for
the other
someone
categories, they better make some traction. They've been out there enough to see it, is all I'm saying.
And for Fonseca, he 2 second rounds, 2 third rounds this year in Grand Slams. Like, could we turn that into 2 third rounds into 4th rounds? Now we're talking about that is market improvement, and that's how, if he does nothing else different, that's how he continues to go from where he was at the beginning of this year to 24 now. Okay, now we start moving our way into the top 20, making a push next year into 2020, 2026, 27.
Right, and defending. We can't forget that, and defending some of the results that he's had, which is always tough for some young players. So, no, I agree, and I think both all these guys are gonna do great. I just, I hate. I just want to see them keep getting better, and I like to see them continue to climb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that kind of takes us a nice segue into both. We'll kind of cover Jakub Mensik and Alex Michelsen here.
Right.
And obviously, yeah. Let's go with Mensik first, because I think he had that kind of jump off the page, Miami Open, where he won the Miami Open, beat Novak 6-6 in the final. Like, that was his crowning achievement there in the year, and then things kind of got away from him a little bit, but still finished the year top 20. Another one of those guys that has all the tools, all the stuff that you're looking for in a who is this who's going to carry the torch for the next generation and challenge the big two. But I think his the thing that we've seen kind of repeatedly is it seems to be a fitness issue with him. Like, he just can't get past some of these Mendoza marks within tournaments.
Yeah. Let me ask you that. You said got away from him. Had he not won Miami, would you have said that about the rest of, let's say he lost that match to Taylor Fritz, would you have said the same thing? Or because he beat Fritz in that long match and beat Novak, did that and his jump off the page, does that put higher standards / expectations on him from you?
Okay, so you're asking me if he didn't, let's say he lost so he beat Taylor in the semis. If he had lost to Taylor and he semi-finaled the event and didn't win it, does that change my expectations of him? I mean, geez, if he doesn't win that event, we're probably still talking about him. He's probably going to finish the year somewhere around 40 if he doesn't get that 1,000 points there. So I think that's a really, really good question.
Because
are you asking me, is he closer to the player? Was that an outlier? Was that an outlier?
I think at least this year. And don't get me wrong, I think he's going to be great. Again, he's these big hitters, man. When they get hot, he could stay hot for that 7-8 days. You know what I mean? Almost darn 2 weeks with the Sunshine Slams, the mini slams. Yep. I don't know. I think that was his Ben Shelton semi of a few years ago of the Australian Open. It was a little bit taller cotton than he may have been ready for at the time. I think he's a semifinalist ish in talent for this year. Just happened to be playing so darn well and took everybody by storm. To me, his, if you will, lost his way a little bit, was a little closer to his low end and he just happened to have his high end while he was during Miami. And that's not taking anything away from him. It's just to say, when you're at that level, Alvin, your range as a player is pretty substantial. You could be top 20 on a given day, maybe higher. You could also be 70 on a given day as far as the consistency of things. What I'd like to see from him is not just the fitness, but start to just get your year fitness in. Be able to play what these guys playing? 80 to 90 matches a year? You know what I mean? Give or take.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah.
Can we get 80 matches a year tough? Can we really start to understand where we're trying to go with all of this? And then out of that, and we'd like to have 10 to 12 mini peaks, around some of the slams. And then, of course, you'd like to see him, to your point, make some dust in some of these slams as well, and start to really, especially the hard courts, which he seems to be a little more comfortable on. So I think Jakub's going to be great. I really do, and I think he's got the confidence from that. Again, I just feel like I don't want to. Hence my question: are we measuring him a bit too much off of one of his outlier performances? If you had told me after that semi of Ben that I think Ben was ready to be top 3 or 4 in the world, I would say absolutely not. He's not ready. Do I think he will get there one day? I think one day very soon, but not then. And here we are 2 years later, almost 3 years later now. Guess what? Ben is knocking on the door, if not already, as a top 5 world player and getting sets off the big 2, which to me is a huge deal, which I don't think he was technically there. He kind of got routine by Novak in that tournament. You know what I mean? Where I could see him now. He's, as you said before, he's one of the up-and-comers, not by your chart, that can actually take down a Zverev, a Novak, and so on because of what he has to offer, where he was, in my opinion, a few years ago, Australia, not even close.
Yeah, I think we have to judge these players, like kind of back to your original question, based off of what they show us, right? So very similar to what has happened in this year, go all the way back to Indian Wells, right? Jack Draper won Indian Wells, and then Mensik right behind him wins Miami. So like now we judge them through that lens. Now, granted, Jack in the prior year semifinal U.S. Open beat Carlos in the warm-up event before Wimbledon, had shown that he had the ability, which is kind of the same thing that we're talking about here with Mensik, right? Like you show me something, and then all I can do is judge you against your own performances. So and it wasn't just the way that it wasn't just that he won the event. Like my man was serving at about 80% first serve clip, like winning tiebreakers left and right, like Mr. Miami out here. It was a fantastic performance.
100%.
Fantastic performance. Take it away, and he's still a top 40 player at the age of 19 that we're still taking a look at. But with that, it's like, okay, now the expectation, the bar's just a little bit higher.
The bar's just a little higher, and that's fair. And ask me how many tournaments a guy can serve 80+% for 7, 12 days straight. I'd be like, very few, but that happened to be his. That's all I'm saying. I think he's going to be great. I really do. But to me, it also explains the other half of the year to me a little bit, because you can't play that well that often. So I agree with you. But I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be very good, and he's huge. I mean, so it's not guys. He's not short on much. So I look forward to seeing him progress this next year as well.
Yeah. Kind of last one here. Alex Michelsen. Kind of popped on the scene there. Takes out Tsitsipas in the Australian Open, and not just took him out like he didn't even see Stefanos as competition. Like Alex was walking around that court like, this is my court. I own this space, which was awesome to see. And we've got we might be getting some of the Mickelson camp here on the pod in the next during this off season a little bit. Friends of the pod. But yeah, I think Alex went through the rest of the year still kind of same story, learning how to be a pro on the pro tour. And that is there's the stuff that we talk about, which is the exciting stuff, the exciting matches, the exciting results, but this is also a job, right, for these guys, and you have to learn how to do the job. And part of the job, the vast majority of the job, is not only being a good tennis player, because all these guys can bowl, but can you manage yourself throughout the course of a year so that you give yourself the best chance to perform. And we've talked to some people in his camp, and they're working really, really hard right now. And fitness is obviously a key focus for a big fella like that. You got to be able to move repeatedly for 45 weeks out of the year at a very high level. So, but from a tools in the bag standpoint, your thoughts on Mr. Mickelson?
All day. He's there was an old Western movie Peter Fonda played in it called Cool Hand Luke. And it wasn't just that he was a gunslinger. It was the cool way that he did it. He was just so laid back, and that's what Alex reminds me of. Just very chill, very. He has a little bit of a he and Taylor have similar personalities in that way, and I think Alex is even more. He can get fired up, but he's a little more Cali, a little more laid back, and I just like his approach to the game, and I think that he'll surfer style. He'll ride the waves when they're there, and doesn't think too much about the losses if they come. And I like that approach to him. I think his huge forehand, huge serve, and he's a big kid. You can always build off that. I think again are the things he can continue to get better at for sure. All big guys need to work more on returns, as far as I'm concerned, and obviously being solid on the backhand side and just defending off that side. I think he's going to be great, though. It's tough to get a bigger guy to learn how to defend when he or she hasn't defended much. And they get to this point now where they have to now, right? And you realize that it's not they can't do it. They just haven't had to. And now that they have to, right, you start to see what they can develop. Part of my discussion earlier when I was talking about they can still get better. So I think he can do it. I think all these guys, and almost with the exception of Lerner, every one of these guys are, a good bit at 6 feet. If not, I know Mensik and Alex are 6'4", 6'5". I mean, these guys are some big boys. So I think we're all at feast is what 6'2", give or take.
Right.
So,
yeah, he's right.
So you got that. They're big enough that they cover a lot of court, and they have the limbs to create a lot of leverage. So to me, it's let him get his legs under. Let him be able to defend and get a full year or another year under his belt. I have no problem with Alex. I could see Alex being top 20, top 15 end of the year, no problem with his talent. Now the only problem is you got the other top 30 guys to worry about who aren't getting pushed out anytime soon. So you're gonna have to elbow somebody out. You know what I mean? And that's what makes this game so difficult.
And that's a really good point you raised, though, about like having to build out new skill sets that you haven't had to use before. We use a basketball analogy. We use basketball here a lot on the podcast as a kind of a comp for tennis, but like same thing with big dudes, right? Like, somebody like you take a Shaquille O'Neal being the biggest example of this, right? Just like, all right, I'm big in high school, I'm big in college, I catch the ball down low, I turn around and dunk on people. But like when you get to the next level, as you continue to go up levels, you meet the other big people who then push you out a little bit further. You got to add the jump hook, right? You got to add some of the spin moves. You got to learn to work off the ball, like all those kind of things. And you don't have the ability to learn these things until you're kind of put in a position where you have to learn these things.
Correct.
And I think it's great that you've got Lerner and Alex, like Team SoCal stand up. They're holding up that Carson facility by themselves right now, with Taylor as well. But that's a very interesting point about like not having to had used those defense skills before, and now you have to do it, at a high level, especially with these guys who are turning defense into offense, at the literally on balls that have no business being turned defense into offense, and ergo now Alex has to be able to do it as well. The bar goes up. You have to continue to raise your to raise your skill set as well. So I think that's a really good observation. Really good observation. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and then we will come back and we'll move into the guys who just happen to be born around the same time as Mr. Sinner and Mr. Alcaraz.
Perfect.